So with that, we'll start. So welcome to Steam Powered PD. My name is Colonel Kelly. Today is Monday, April 20th, and we are going to have a conversation with different educators around the state this week. We're starting with Yarmouth. So if you guys would, we'll go around the horn and introduce yourselves. So with you, Mike.
All right, my name is Mike Arsenault. I serve a couple roles in the district. I'm the Director of Technology for the district, but also the Instructional Technology Integrator at the middle school.
All right. I'm Todd Abbott, and it's my first year in this role in Yarmouth. I've been in Yarmouth for a while before this, but I am the kindergarten through fourth grade technology integrator, and I'm in 2 different schools. We're using one-to-one iPads.
And Alice?
And I'm Alice Barr. I'm the high school technology integrator, grades 9 to 12. And we are one-to-one MacBooks.
Awesome. So how are you guys doing so far? How's it going?
It's pretty hard to believe it's been the end of 5 weeks already, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, and some we were discussing this earlier. In some ways, it's been for our tech department and RSU 19 as well as myself, busier than typical. And then I know some people have been obviously less busy. So it is kind of that divide. We're kind of seeing that split. The good thing is, I keep telling people is, you know, the silver lining here is anything that they learn at this point going forward right now isn't time wasted. Whatever they do for the virtual stuff will be stuff they'll be able to apply back in class in the physical classroom. So I think that's useful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for many of our teachers, it actually wasn't that huge of a shift. The biggest thing that we prepared for before they left was getting them trained in Hangouts Meet. And we really kind of relied on actually a video that Wes Fryer put out in terms of doing the calendar and focusing on that, and worked with all of our teachers to be able to do that. Because our expectation as a district was that most of the pieces will be done asynchronously, but a lot of teachers wanted to create some synchronous opportunities as well for their students to get together. And so they have been using Google Meets for that and doing it through their calendars. And that's gone well so far. I would say most of it still is asynchronous, although I think the high school is doing probably the most synchronous meetings as far as out of any of the ranges.
Do they have like weekly meetings or more than that, or is just cut, you know, as they feel like it, or how often?
For high school?
Yeah.
So we have a schedule. So we used to have a 2-day rotating block schedule. What we've done now, and those periods were 90 minutes. What we've done now, and they were blue day, white day.
Yep.
What we've done now is we do a blue day, a white day. Each of those classes are 45 minutes, interdispersed with office hours. And then we have what we call a gold day for, I don't know why, but, and that day is only support and office hours. So within that 2-day cycle, the expectation is that every teacher will meet synchronously with the kids. And we also have advisory normally at 7:20 in the morning, or 7:30, sorry, 7:20 is the old days, 7:30. That's now at 2:45. It's at the end of the day. And that's every day. And the expectation is that's synchronous as well. So we have a sort of a wellness check-in, make sure we see our students.
Sure.
So
you guys keep track of that, make sure everybody gets seen once a week or so.
Exactly. But that's daily. So so we see them, we see a lot of our kids, and I think the perception around that, or the sort of expectation around that, is we need to keep the relationships going. That is our main focus. And so the synchronous allows you to actually, you know, do a check-in one-on-one or with a whole group of kids, which has been fabulous.
Yeah. How about you, Todd? I know you said you work in younger grades. How's that going?
Yeah, we sort of started off with a different lens. We knew from the beginning that with Mike and Alice, with a 5 through 12, they have one-to-one devices that they were comfortable sending home with all the kids. And we weren't there. We don't have one-to-one in kindergarten. So we had we had an iPad at school for every kid, grade 1 through 4, but we have charging issues, and we have the age issues. We had a lot of stuff. And at the time, we were trying to just plan under the assumption that we'll be out for a couple weeks and go with that, even though, you know, the signs were there, but we didn't want to make any huge leaps right away. So what we did is instead we decided to do most of our learning on Seesaw. And the reason we chose Seesaw was that Seesaw is it's a very low bar for entrance. You can do Seesaw on an iPhone or an Android phone or a Kindle Fire on a laptop. There's so many ways to get into it. And the idea being that the teacher will push the information out on Seesaw, which we already use, and that the learning could take place either on the device itself or offline, and then just sort of uploading pictures or records of it. There are a few teachers who have gone and done synchronous learning on their own. A lot of it is just like once a week. They'll do like a once a week, like just sort of like I think similar to advisor advisee, where they'll have the class meet, not with an academic agenda, but more along the lines of a morning meeting. We usually have every day, K through 4 starts off with a morning meeting where it's, hi, my name is, what's going on, a greeting, an activity. So they're doing that like once a week. And it's not all classes, but I think that the classes that have been doing it, the word's been spreading, and that's been sort of organically filtering out to more and more groups.
Sure. How the parents reacted to that?
The parents have loved, so, excuse me. It's a lot more intense for parents, K-4.
Right.
No matter what the kids are doing, they need some kind of guidance, some kind of support. And, like everywhere, sometimes that's being done by older siblings, sometimes by parents. Parents are doing work from home and this at the same time. The parents overwhelmingly, like I, walk around the neighborhood with the kids and keep distant, but I see people, and everyone I've talked to has been really, really supportive. One of the good things about, even though they're not synchronous, is almost every teacher is still starting with a morning meeting. So they'll send out something in the morning, hello, boys and girls, it's Monday morning, good to see you all. And and what I've heard from parents is seeing their teacher's face. The kids seeing and hearing their teachers has been great. And I know from my own experience, I have a 6-year-old, she just turned 6, who's in kindergarten, and she had actually been out for a week with the flu. And then a week before that, her teacher had been out sick. So she hadn't seen her teacher for like 3 weeks. And the first day that first message came through and she saw her teacher's face and heard her talking, my daughter just lit up. Like I hadn't seen her that happy in I don't know how long. It's like, she'd been sick and she'd been out. Yeah. And that connection, I think parents are really appreciating that they're getting like a daily connection with teacher faces, with seeing teachers, even if it's not synchronous, they're still getting those pieces every day, which has been fantastic.
Well, just having another person right in their lives, even virtually at least, is a good thing. Yeah. What platform were you guys using that to do the video component of it, like for teachers to record? Are they just uploading it? Yeah,
so we're doing a few things. We actually when Mike and Alice and I first started talking about this, before anything happened, it was like, all right, so we can have the teachers video these messages, and then they can use Google Classroom to have the work done. And I had this whole thing in my head of all this stuff that I would do that could be great. And then I started thinking about the idea of access and all the teachers. And that's when I decided to narrow it right down just to Seesaw. Like Seesaw we've been using it in the classroom. It's accessible and it's pretty robust, especially when you go to the paid platform, which we kind of did on an emergency basis.
I'm wondering about that too, going forward, and think about, like, I'm sure you guys did too, tons of teachers, forward us emails. Hey, so-and-so is free now. Hey, all these different, platforms and tools and whatever, which is cool, which is great. We want them to. But I also, two things about that I just question, I love to have a conversation about is, one, if some of these programs that were, they were doing okay, they were fine, but all of a sudden they just jumped up as far as numbers go, what capacity they have from their end. And then the other one is some of these things they're free right now and they're really cool. And then 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is, which things that we get to vet them, we get to kind of kick the tires, but which things are worth keeping basically.
We've tried to really, and from day one, we were called over the weekend that we were not going to be going back to school on Monday with students. So when we started this, teachers were reporting that Monday. And I know that first Monday we talked openly with our teachers about this. It's like, look, you're going to see a lot of this. And I'm already getting a lot of emails from you all about this and this and this that's now free. We want to coalesce around a lot of things that we were already strongly using in our district, because we didn't want to add a lot of new tech, because trying to roll that out to students and staff. It's one thing about getting it rolled out to staff, but having students be able to then interact with some of these tools is challenging. And so we've really tried to limit it down to a very few tools. Obviously, as Todd mentioned, we're heavy with Seesaw K4, Google G Suite throughout. They start using them pretty much in third grade pretty heavily, and that interacts with the Seesaw piece. But then it's like we as a district, we purchased Pear Deck Premium. So we've been working with that. We've started working with Newsella this year. So we're using that. Padlet. We did go to the premium version of Padlet because we were already doing things with that with the free version, and this just gave us more flexibility as we move forward. And what else am I missing, Todd, now as far as like, but we've tried to really keep it low key on that.
You paid for Seesaw ahead of time before this?
So Mike and I had actually been talking with Seesaw for a while. We were looking for we've been using Seesaw, the free version, for a few years now. And we were actually, Mike and I were just sort of talking about it, and like, we use Seesaw a lot. We use Seesaw for a whole bunch of stuff. And so we'd actually started talking with them about it. Our plan was to start for next fall. Yeah. And then with this happening, we just decided we had a bunch. Yeah, we had a bunch of workarounds that made it manageable, but it was a little chaotic trying to get all those pieces together. So we decided this was the time to do it. And it was a good decision because it has made things a lot easier. And we're not worried now about pulling it back from teachers in the fall. It's just really going to continue on this way. Now, that created its own set of problems because we had already onboarded independently, which then had to transfer over. And that was all work that was on my plate, not on teachers, not on students.
Well,
So
we had a similar thing where we had a teacher sign up for a thing, and I won't out the company what it is, but they were fine. It was working fine. They're using it for communication with parents. But then all of a sudden, with, again, who knows, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, hey, it's free, everybody's using it. It just slowed right down to a crawl. And my big concern with stuff like that, if you're not a Google and Amazon and Microsoft, the big, huge names, all of a sudden you're getting slammed. Like the worst thing would be to have this system you're using roll out to parents and kids, and they're used to it. 2 weeks later, sorry, we can't use that anymore. We're going to, change horses midstream. So I'm really curious of which things can, take the hit.
Yeah, well, that and the other piece with this too is also the student data privacy piece to it. Is
right.
We've had a strong focus on, because I know that I've had a number of teachers reach out to me about, hey, can we open this up? It's easier than using what we're currently using. And some of the student data privacy policies are horrendous on some of these resources. And so we've been relying heavily on the consortium website, and Common Sense Media has some great resources in terms of privacy and some of the resources out there. It's nowhere near as extensive as the Student Data Privacy Consortium websites. I usually actually go to the Massachusetts
they're very good
site because they have a lot more on it than Maine does at this point. Maine's getting there, but it's
well, I know I get a email every, I don't know, a couple of weeks or whatever, like, hey, why don't we just use Facebook for everything? Like, that just keeps keeping a common refrain. And again, I here's my spiel. This is why. It's not because, there's reasons. It's not trivial. Yeah. How about you, Alice, at the high school level? Do you guys kind of just keep on rolling what you were using anyway, or did you add anything? Or
we didn't add anything. Did we? No, I don't think so. Just the Padlet. Padlet would be the only thing we sort of came into recently, but nope, nothing new.
Oh yeah, and sorry, Kern, to loop back, I kind of got a little sidetracked when you asked the question. Most of the stuff what the teachers are using to record is either photo booth, QuickTime. People start using Loom to get a picture of themselves in there. They're making whatever video they want, and then at first there was confusion about whether they could upload it straight to the platform to Seesaw or whether they go through YouTube first. But now most people have figured out how to shrink their videos small enough they can put it right up into Seesaw. So a lot of it,
so they're just recording it locally, right on their machine, and then going that way. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's worked out really well, and just like things like screen recording. And when people ask me a question, and instead of just typing them a response, me doing a screen recording back for them, so they see like, oh wow, this is so easy and so quick, and just sort of that modeling of different ways to communicate.
Well, one thing that came up is from some of our teachers. So I introduced them because there are certain individual guidance people and whatever, they want to be able to text directly to parents and contact that way. So I showed them out Google Voice. Now, Google Voice in the education domain costs money, but your Gmail one is free and blah, blah, blah. So we just talked to them about that. Now, there's questions there. Again, we talk about who's in control of that data. But one of the teachers was like, well, why don't we using this all along? Why isn't Google really pushing this? I'm like, because they've moved on. That's, even that is now 10 years old technology. Now we're doing video stuff like, this is what you do. This is how it works, quote unquote, in the real world. So it has been an interesting ride getting everybody kind of on the same page.
Yeah, and I think what was confusing for people is using Meets versus Hangouts Meets. Yeah. Because Meets is so easy it's like texting with everybody. And we didn't really use it, but now everybody's using it. And I wonder what that will be going forward. I would imagine that will be a lifeline for.
Well, we've been pushing in our district, for even admin to do video calls like this as they're meeting, forever. And it just didn't happen, whatever, so be it. But in fact, the last staff meeting we had in the building, we kind of pushed to have them do it this way. So every teacher could go to their room, do the hangout. And even if it didn't need it at that point, because this is quite a way ago, it's good practice, right? To have done it, basically the whole process. We've never done it. And I'd be curious how many of our own staff had never done a video conference call like this before, just themselves even. So
that was something that did surprise us for sure, Kern, because we started doing some Hangouts Meet training prior to leaving school. Yeah. And, we started that process probably 3 weeks before we left school with the idea that, hey, this may come down the pike. It likely will. We hope it doesn't, but we may be doing school from home for who knows how long. And it was interesting to me. I found, especially working out of the middle school, how few teachers had actually ever been on a video conference ever.
Right.
And now they whip up, it cracks me up. It brings me back to kind of like when Google Docs first started taking off, and you'd be in a meeting and someone would say, oh, I'll start a doc. And, for notes and things. And so it was kind of like that now with the Hangouts Meet. Oh, I'll generate the Meet link.
Yeah.
And make you all guess. So they're becoming as, easygoing with Hangouts Meet as they are with a Google Doc at this point, in terms of managing it, setting it up. Everyone's there.
Well, that's the real question going forward. And this is the real question I have. At some point, do we ever have a non-educational snow day again? Now, I do understand there are kids that don't have that access and that whole thing. That's a real thing, and we can adjust that and go from there. But let's say next year, let's say next December, there's a snow day. Is there any legitimate excuse to not having a classroom day? Like, what would be the pushback at that point? Is it because we have machines, like just like you guys, we send our kids home with machines? Any younger grades that didn't have one, they're able to come in, and we send them on the bus. We've been doing lunch buses every day, sending meals, so they were able to get a machine. I don't know if we're one-to-one district-wide, but we're pretty darn close if we're not. Anybody who wants one can pretty much get one. And then, of course, the internet access is another factor there, and whatever, figure that out. But a real question, like next year, snow day, is there any reason why you couldn't just have class? And if not, why not? What's the pushback there?
I totally agree.
The only potential pushback, we had this with the town council meeting, is power. We had a town council meeting, and halfway through the town council meeting, half of the town's power went out. So you had all the councilors up on the screen, and all of a sudden, half of them disappeared. We had to. But if it's just a snow day, if nothing, that's even more catastrophic. If nothing else goes on, this has been. I've had a bunch of teachers say the exact same thing. Like, we can do this. This is manageable. This is doable. And even now, to piggyback on what Mike was saying, it's gotten so easy that now when people will send me issues, it'll just be like, well, rather than me trying to go back and forth with you, why don't we do a Google Hangout and share your screen with me so I can see what's going on? Right. So we've gotten like that one more. It's just sort of it's a natural piece of support.
Yeah, and again, it's like making a phone call where you wouldn't feel weird about making a phone call. It's not a tech hurdle, for anybody really now. And when it gets to that point where people are used to that, and we still have educators that aren't, but this is kind of the same old saw we've been talking about for a long time in our roles as far as promoting tech. And again, hopefully it's not just seen again as like, oh, that's cool, that'd be nice, that's an add-on if I get around to it. No. This is how we do business every day. And honestly, the kids are not even, in our experience, my experience has been, the kids aren't. They haven't a blip. Like, they're fine. If they are not on, it's probably because they choose not to be on, or again, maybe there's some technical reason they can't. But it's not because of the lack of information about technology. It's the teacher's kind of holding them back at that point.
I think also for some kids, this is an environment where they can thrive.
Sure.
Some students are doing way better in this environment than they do in the classroom, and really succeeding with it. Others are struggling. Although I think that we've done a great job too with that, with our instructional support, because all of our most of our ed techs are special education ed techs. And so they're still supporting their students, and they're using Hangouts Meet to meet with their students and talk to them about, not just the ed techs, obviously the case managers as well, and learning strategists, but they're still doing instructional support in a distance manner. And that's
same here. No, I think that's, again, a lot of these things, are there situations that is still not going to apply? Of course, there's individuals, but the idea of you can only do this if everybody can do it, or don't bother doing it at all, it just doesn't fly. I mean, and again, same thing with internet access. Like, I used to have a discussion with certain principals that'd be like, well, I have certain kids that don't have internet access, so we can't assign anything that you have to have the internet. And to me, that was the same argument as power. Like, there's we lose power. That's something that happens, but we don't assume it's not going to be there because of the times that it isn't actually there. You can't plan for the worst. So,
and I hope one positive that comes out of this whole situation right now is that those families and those locations in this state in particular that currently don't have access, that we start to look at the internet as important as electricity, and that we can't have homes without access to broadband internet. It's just insane to me that we still in 2020 have such a large percentage of, and it's not, when you look at statewide data, yes, it's not a huge percentage, but it's bigger than it should be in the United States.
Well, the thing that I'm excited about talking with the DOE about, like, and looking at some of the time and energy they've been putting on towards this issue, is not just thinking for like a Band-Aid right now for a month or two or whatever it is, but like long term, what does it look like when you have kids that not only, yes, we've got one-to-one machines, devices of some kind, but also they all have internet somehow, like whatever that means, if it's hotspots, if it's built-in device, whatever that is. So you can, as a teacher, assume they have a device, they have connection. Now, what does that look like? And again, we know this. We're living it right now. That's a big deal. That's not just a step up. That's a big, huge jump up.
Yeah.
What do you guys have, or roughly for percentage? Do you have a lot of, or any students that don't have internet, or is there a certain percentage?
We had some that didn't. We were fortunate. We kicked out the information about Spectrum offering free access, and that seems to have filled the needs that I've heard of, at least. I don't know if Alice or Todd have any others that didn't seem to get that. But as far as I'm aware of, in our district, we have 100% coverage in terms of internet access at this point.
Yeah.
And
we
so
had about 10% that didn't, and that was the initial questionnaire. And even then, there was, how this works, like high school level. I know there were some individual students who said they didn't, but if you actually pressed them on it, they did. It's kind of like a case of, if you break the dishes, you don't have to do dishes anymore. Why would you, why would I volunteer that information? So again, we still have 10%. So there's still kids that don't. But we purposely, we went out to a bunch of hotspots, and I know we're, looking to try to solve those issues. It's not perfect, but even a situation like right now, where you were able to have things that could be offline, where a parent could bring a child, to the outside the school, like in the parking lot, use the internet for 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it needs to be to get the stuff they need, and then go offline again. And those type of realities, like that's a solvable problem. That's not an insane thing to do. I
think that in the two schools that I'm looking at, our attendance right now is actually better than it is on a regular day. Sure. Because you can, number one, no one's mixing, so no one's getting a cold. And number two, you can be at home and not feel great, but still get your work done. Right. Or still even, and not even, participation means a lot of different things for different kids. Like Mike was saying, some kids are thriving on this, some kids aren't thriving on this. But even if you've got every kid in your school, you've also got kids who are checking out during the day. So this is just another way to try and work on pulling kids in, and not just relying on, like, if they're there. The previous assumption is, if the child is present, it is a successful day. And you can't fall back on that now, because they aren't going to just sit there and sleep through your lecture and get what you need them to get. You've got to actually engage them so they actually do something and demonstrate their learning day to day.
Yeah, we've been talking about that seat time versus like quality time, right, for forever. And this kind of, like you said, exposes that. I also know it's been a factor too, and we've had district-wide conversations about schedule has to look different, not just because of obviously realities of this whole situation, but if it's lunchtime and say at 11 o'clock, well, household, you might have a elementary student, a middle school student, and a high school student. So you have to, so the schedules have to work all together. I had one family that their issue was, like, their bandwidth is okay if one person was on, but if all four were on, that's a problem. So we as a system have to kind of take that into account. What does that mean? Does that mean we do shorter classes, different staggered? I don't know, but these are realities that we can kind of figure out.
Or even creating opportunities. Because I know at the middle school, one of the issues that we came across as well were conflicting schedules. When you look at a student's day from their core courses of, math, English, social studies, science, but then you add in all the unified arts. And then you add in for the students who have special services, those pieces as well. And so these kids were getting very booked up and it was getting very challenging. So it became really important to collaborate in terms of when are people going to leave windows open for different groups.
Yeah, we had the same issue initially. Like I remember the first or maybe second week or whatever it was, kids were like, I can't be in 3 places. Everybody's like, well, I'm available from 10 to 11. Come find me. And so we kind of realization, no, it's going to be the other way around. And honestly, mimicking the easiest way to do that is mimicking the school schedule, because kids are already slotted at the right places at the right time. Like you don't have to worry about who's available because that's where they should be. So
that's why we shortened our periods and then put a department office hours interdispersed there. And then those extra days, anybody can request to have office hours.
Yeah.
It's working pretty well. I haven't heard hardly anything about the schedule. So that's
right. And it's amazing because the feedback we've had, just unilaterally around the district has been unbelievably positive from parents. Of course, there are a few parents who complain, especially, and it's usually on either end of the spectrum of the students who are spending way too much time doing coursework because it takes them longer, and the other end where they're not challenged enough and they're finishing up their work in an hour.
Yeah.
And we've offered some diversions for the kids who are getting their work done really quickly. So the librarian has set up this great website with she has a question of the day. We have a learn something new on Wednesdays, and then we're going to do an online scavenger hunt. So we're trying to offer those kinds of things, just as I think as kids, as we go forward, more and more kids figure out how they're getting their work done quickly. A lot of them want to keep going. It's interesting. We have a book group. I mean, it's been really interesting. For a lot of kids are just thirsty to keep going because they don't have sports now too. That's the other thing.
Well, and if you don't have something for them, like because we went back and forth initially, like, is it going to be pass fail? What's it worth? I mean, the first week it wasn't anything, but now we kind of come back again. And we had certain students in my classes that we were meeting, but there was one in particular, there's actually two that I know they have internet. I know they could be on, they're tech savvy, none of that, but they had no reason to be because they weren't being held accountable. Like if they didn't show up, nobody's going to fail them. So basically it felt like they didn't say this, but I know these kids. I've known them for like 3 years, that they'd be suckers to show up because why would I? Why bother? And so we kind of have to have a little bit of stake, a little bit of skin in the game to make it worthwhile and get them there, because we want them to give them a reason to get up in the morning. We don't want them to wake up at 2 PM playing Xbox all night, because why not? That's all I'm going to do. So I think that's part of our role now, is to give them that kind of, yes, you're getting the social experience, you're getting the academic one. Of course, there are some individual students that won't be able to make it for reasons out of their control. So be it, we'll figure that out, but it can't not be for everybody.
Right.
One of the, when it came to scheduling, one of the things I was in a specialist, the extracurriculars, art, social emotional learning, library. I was in a meeting with them about 2 weeks ago. And they were actually concerned because they wanted the kids who weren't doing their work. They wanted to make sure that they didn't get 6 different emails, like from all the different people who are, they're actively reaching out to try and make sure to engage everyone and get everyone in. And if kids aren't engaging, and again, this is K-4, so these are younger kids. If they aren't engaging, reaching out and finding out why, but then making sure that they weren't getting, that you weren't like hitting the parents with 5 emails from 5 different people. Where are you? What's happening? So to sort of slow that down.
Yeah, we ended up, that's a good thought. That's a good point. We ended up doing, so our 5th through 12th grade, we basically use Classroom as their management, be able to hand Google Classroom stuff back and forth. And we found like at the younger grades, like 5th and 6th grade, for a parent, like even with me, my own son's sixth grade, like I want to have one place I can go look and see everything kind of in one place. And that was just an easy way to do that. They could actually schedule them out by times, name the classes a certain time frame, whatever. So I knew at a certain time of day he should be in math or whatever, and that kind of thing. So that was super helpful. In our younger grades, K4, we set up, and this isn't perfect, but it's working. Basically, every teacher has a homepage that's a Google slide or slides that they can manipulate, add, and subtract to, and they'll throw up like a video they recorded themselves. Good morning, it's Monday, blah, 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 whatever, and that kind of stuff. We started there just because it's so easy. Like you literally drag and drop, and that's about as easy as we could make it day one, right off the fly, everybody learning it as they go. And then certain individuals have kind of moved on to like something more advanced, which is cool. But that was a kind of a way to just everybody have something, like start from there.
It's interesting you say that, because when we asked the kids for feedback when we were realizing that we were going to distance learning, we asked the kids for some feedback on how they would like things presented. And so we have the same sort of idea. Every single teacher has a landing page, which is just a Google Doc, but it's all linked from one starting document so that everybody knows where to go.
Well, we did that. It's the same idea, more for mom and dad, because like the K4 teachers or parents, second graders not going on to the website to look for stuff. Mom is with them or dad or whatever to help them hopefully find that. So we wanted a place that was public, easy, no matter what level, technical level you had, you could have something. And then from there, you go wherever you want. And so it's been fun to watch certain individual teachers who've been kind of really quickly outgrew what that could do, which you would, and then like, well, what can I do? What's next? And so we kind of add to that and kind of move on. So that's been great.
And that was definitely a challenge at the first week, because I know I had a lot of parents, especially at the middle level, where they're a little more involved with the fact that the teachers were putting everything in Google Classroom. Yeah. The kids had access to the calendar from that, but the parents didn't. So teaching some of the teachers how to share that calendar with the parents so they could see it too, instead of having to go into the students' account.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We had the same issue. That's why we said, I don't know, we had a lot. We did have some. I shouldn't say that. Fourth grade, we had classes that were running through Classroom. Some were. I don't think third grade or under, many, if any, were using Classroom, which, again, I don't know would be super appropriate for a kindergarten class to have Google Classroom. That would make sense. But just something that they can interface with easily.
And the piece that I'm excited about, because we've always looked at this since it started as an opportunity. This is a great opportunity for us in terms of, especially with what we do, to support our students, staff, and community in terms of with this distance learning. And so now we're starting to look at, well, how can we kind of like a midpoint check here of where are we, what's working well, what needs some work, and how can we make this better for the rest of the year? And who knows how, who knows about the fall at this point?
No, that's a great point. And we're kind of in the same boat. I don't know, like we get a lot of good feedback. Everybody's super happy that we have, again, the lunches right every day and all that kind of stuff, and machines and devices, and our tech department's been killing themselves. I was telling you guys earlier, like certain people that their workload might have gone down, but other people their workload went up by quite a bit. So I don't know how to reach out beyond at some point and be like, what else can we do, or what places that we're missing that we don't even know.
Right. Like right now we're planning a faculty meeting for the start of the month in May at the middle school to basically do that model of breakout rooms in Google Meet to have smaller groups discuss and have mixed groups. So you have one 5th grade teacher in each group, a 6th grade teacher, a unified arts teacher, and so forth. So you mix it up so you get a little bit of different experiences and have some prompts around like what's working well, what are some of the challenges you're facing, and almost kind of ed camp it a little bit, but then have them come back at the end as their teams and discuss, well, what'd you learn? Because people are so maxed out right now on just trying to keep everything afloat that they're not having time to really reach out and do more learning about what's working elsewhere. They're just trying to keep their own stuff going.
Well, and not only stuff as far as professionally, but everything, right? Like the house, the family, the kids, the whole nine. And that's something that, I mean, my biggest recommendation to my own administration, other teachers ask me like, how do I do this? whatever I look, I say, because I've had the fortune of doing kind of online stuff for a long time at home and working places with people all over the world. And I would say, like, when you set a schedule, you have to set it, and you schedule your breaks, you schedule your lunch, you schedule the time, and you stay by that. So if you have lunch at 11, you have an hour for lunch, and you schedule that. If somebody asks you, are you free from 11 to 12? You say, no, I'm booked. You don't tell them why, but you have to schedule that, because when you're home, you can be working forever. Like, there's never a time you couldn't be working. There's always something to do. So you have to consciously say, okay, this is my time I'm working, and I'm going to step away for a little bit. Because I had initially a lot of teachers in administration coming in, like, I'm burned out, like they're on a screen all day. I'm like, you have to stand up and walk away. You have to force yourself to do that, because there'll always be another meeting. There'll always be another conversation. But that's just the learning at home.
And the email train's been challenging at best.
Well, we're all that guy. You remember that video, the guy that was on CNN, that his daughter, I think, came in like halfway through the. We're all that now, right? We have our kids coming in and out, and that's the world now.
We meet as a team every morning at 8 a.m. and Todd's children usually come in and say good morning to us, and so we have a good time with that.
That's great.
That's been great, just because we also that way get to support each other in terms of
course, yeah.
We're seeing some similar pieces that come across. And lately, well, especially this week now, we're starting to plan a course we're going to do for our teachers, as well as because one nice benefit we have in our contract is that teachers can take in-house professional development courses, and it counts like a college course would in terms of salary advancement and so forth. And so we've had great success with that over the years in terms of getting teachers to innovate in their classrooms with technology by taking our course.
Sure.
And so now we're looking to do it as a distance learning course and focusing around how can we get better right now, but also with an eye to the future of, we don't want you just trying to figure out how to finish the year off strong. We want you to get some skills that will make you a better teacher for the long haul.
Well, the reality too is, and I watch this with my own boys, and I know this, but you're watching it, right in front row. Once you get to the point where you can basically teach yourself online, like, because everything's there. But there is a piece of like, well, how do I even know where to start? How do I get this, whatever? So you can get that ability to be able to, find what you need to find, use that to teach whatever you're trying to learn, and then move on. Once you have that, forget it. It's over. You can do whatever you want, because everything's there. It's just a matter of figuring out the easiest way to be able to get yourself. And I think a lot of educators are kind of in that mindset. They look at the game of school as you sit in front of somebody, they talk to you. I mean, that's the model. That's what I learned. And for right or wrong, I mean, again, I feel like our kids are more or less past that. They all teach themselves how to do stuff on video games through YouTube or whatever it is they're trying to figure out. They're not waiting for someone else to show it to them necessarily.
True.
It's been interesting. Like I said, watch my boys, go through this whole process, and it's been good. It's been good. I joke with them. Initially, my wife was like, "Oh, you guys get to be stuck in here with a teacher." I'm like, how's that going? I was like, "Oh, they're stuck in here with me. I'm not stuck in here with them. I get to use this as a opportunity to do all kinds of cool stuff." So,
right. Well, we've got a great opportunity to see that lens too, though, of what it's the student experience.
Absolutely.
And we've pulled from a variety of influences. Mike has a daughter home who's doing a TikTok challenge, and we use that TikTok challenge in our video to get the word out about our course coming up. And so just like pulling in these you've got cultural influences that wouldn't normally be there, that are all taking advantage of. It's, yes, we're all stuck at home, but trying to pull that together and squeeze out the good parts of that as well. The entire staff of the elementary school, which is 2, 3, and 4, all filmed themselves dancing to a song. Our music teacher spliced it all together, layered it all over each other, and sent it out to the kids as a community meeting. And the kids loved it. The parents loved it. And they got to see teachers in their houses dancing with their children and all this stuff. So, leveraging what you've got and making the best out of those things that we're forced. Yes, we're forced to, but can we make it better? Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I can't think of a better note to end on. I really appreciate your guys' time today. I guess I'll see you tomorrow, Mike, right? Virtual?
Yes, you will.
That's the plan. But it sounds like it's awesome stuff's going down in Yarmouth, and hopefully we can keep in touch and keep sharing best practice and all this good stuff. So thank you guys very much for your time. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Karen.